Hey everybody, lucky you. I came to give you some financial advice. First things first, I am not a financial advisor. And secondly, every prospectus in the world will tell you this, but past performance does not indicate future performance. So no matter how well an investment has done in the past, that doesn't guarantee that it will continue to do that well. All that being said, um, I wanted to give you a little bit of a tip. So I've been in corporate world a long time now, and every company I've ever worked for has had a 401k. And most people just kind of want to hit autopilot. And there are a lot of mutual funds or baskets of mutual funds that will allow you to do that. So you basically just calculate what age you're going to retire and you just hit that age. So it's like retirement 2035, retirement 2040, retirement 2045. Like it's a no-brainer. You just pick that and you feel like you're good, right? So I'm here to tell you that if you do like 5 minutes of research, and that's really all that it requires, you could make millions over your 40-year career. So to illustrate what I'm talking about, I pulled up so this is the latest that I got here. Um, so my new job has Principal as its 401k provider. So here's all the funds. This is all the research I'm going to do. Okay. So I want you to pay attention to these columns, right? Here's the 10-year performance and here's since inception. Well, and you have to pay attention to this column as well because it tells you the inception date and that will come in handy. All right. So we're just going to scroll down and just take a look at what mutual funds they have to offer and how they've performed over the past 10 years or since their inception, right? Now, keep in mind, the general market will do anywhere from 9 to 12%. So if you just have like a broad index fund, you just invest in a mutual fund that tracks the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones Industrial Average or the NASDAQ, you'll do fine. You will do absolutely fine. But let's just take a look and see what we got here. Okay, so here we go, 10-year and since inception. Now, not all mutual funds are built to beat the street. A lot of them are extremely conservative. And the thought being when you get late in your career, you're in your 60s, maybe 70s, you don't want to lose money. So you go very, very conservative, right? And a lot of funds, especially bond funds, are designed to do that. So you can see here, this is the bond index, 10-year 1.66, since inception 2. So you're not going to lose money. This isn't even keeping up with inflation, though, honestly. You can do better. So 269, again, these are all bond funds. These are meant to be extremely stable and not lose money. And here's what I'm talking about with the target dates. So 2010 target date, very conservative, right? 6%, 7%, 2015, depending on when you're going to retire, 2020. So the farther out it gets, the longer the time horizon, the more aggressive the funds will be. So you'll start to see 2025, now we're up to 9.42 since 2009. That's pretty good, right? We're getting to the part where you're going to be matching the general market. 2030, 2035, you can see the trend here. The longer you have, the more aggressive they get, the better your returns. These are all pretty good, right? 11, 11, 11, 11, 2050, that's pretty far out, incrementally better than 2045. But, if you don't want to bother with this stuff, if you don't want to take these 5 minutes to look at these things, just pick one of them, calculate we think you'll want to retire. What I've learned is that retirement is a number with a dollar sign in front of it. It's not an age. So, if you have $1 billion, you can retire right now if you want to. All right. So you get the gist. All these are going up and up and up and up and up. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to, if you're going to retire in 2 years, you can still pick 2070. You can be a rebel. You can go nuts and just pick, okay, I'm going to invest like a young person, even though I'm an old person. All right. So then we get into the index fund. So this is what I was talking about. This one more or less tracks the S&P 500, the Fidelity 500 index fund. 10-year return of 14%. That is great. Since inception in 2011, 13%. That's 15 years of 13%. That is phenomenal. Then what's this? JP Morgan large cap growth, 10-year return of 18. 18. And since inception, so in the past 16 years, it's done 16%. This to me is the clear winner here. right? This one is just raising its hand and jumping out of its seat and saying, pick me, pick me, pick me. And then, we go back to the small and mid equity and we're back in the 10 to 12 range, right? Okay. So this is the 5 minutes of research I've done. Now, a lot of people will mix funds, right? And the thought there is that you want diversity, right? So if one sector crashes, then you're still okay. So if tech goes south, then you still have some blue chips, right? But mutual funds, by their very nature, diversify. So mutual funds, by law, can only own a certain percent of any one company in the fund. So they're inherently protected. So there is nothing wrong, and I've been doing this a long time. There is nothing wrong with putting all your eggs in one basket, ideally the best basket. So what I've done, as you can probably imagine, let me go ahead and share my screen again. What I've done is I have elected to have 100% of all my contributions go to this guy. Where is he? There he is. There we go. JP Morgan Large Cap Growth Fund. You get all of my dollar bills. And the company I work for is a good one. So they match you dollar for dollar up to 6%. That is free money, kids. So if you're working for a company that'll match you dollar for dollar, and if you can, whatever they'll match you up to, you pick that number and you will get a lot of free money. I mean, obviously save as much as you can, but life happens and things can go south. Both my wife and I lost parents at an early age. So, you know, we don't accumulate wealth very well. It's more important to us that we live well than I got a session error. All right. I was going to switch anyway. So, you know, we kind of tried to balance living well and also saving for a rainy day. Anyway, I want to show you this. So here's 10%, and I did this in an earlier video, and it just shows the effects of compounded annual growth rate, right? So say you're 22 years old and you're going to retire at 65. So you put $2,000 in this year, and then the next year. So for the next 5 years, you put in $2,000 and then you retire at 65. At 10%, you'll have $500,000. Now, obviously, there's inflation to consider, and $552,625 in 2026 aren't going to are a lot smaller than 5,500, whatever that number is, in 2070. It ain't what it used to be. There was a time when you could buy a house for $5,000. Gone are those days. You get what I'm saying. But still, $500,000 for investing 10,000 in your first 5 years. Now here's 12%, 2 million. So 2 percentage points gets you 1.5 million more dollars over time. Now, if this fund, it won't be able to sustain 18%. The rule of 72 is what you divide 72 by whatever the return is, and that's how often your money will double. So at 10%, your money will double every 7 years, roughly. At 12%, it'll double every 6 years, roughly. At 18%, it'll double every 4 years, roughly. 72 divided by 18 is 4. So if you can get 18%, you won't, but this is for illustration purposes. But if you can, that's the difference between 12 and 18. You go from 2 million to 7.3 million. And that's from doing maybe 5 minutes of research. And that's, of course, assuming that past performance is an indication of future performance, which, take it for what you will. I've been doing this a long time. I've done really well in my 401ks. And every time I talk to my coworkers, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm having a good year. Like I'm up like 8%." We'll have this conversation in like July, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm up 8% already." I'm like, "Oh, that's cute," and I'll be up like 24% because I just put everything in one fund. And if that fund does extremely well, and it usually does, then I'm doing great. So anyway, take 5 minutes, look at all the funds, pick the one with the longest, best return, and call it a day. That's all I'm saying. All right. I got to go, but it's been fun. Peace out.